Hello, my name is Vasanta and thank you for being here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. As December approaches, I wanted to put out this video out there because one of the main things that people ask me is how to prepare for eclipses. Now, towards the end of December of this year, we're going to be having a total solar eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius. And it's going to be a sign that is going to be extremely active during the month. Sagittarius is a fire sign, and it is the culmination of the cycle of fire in the zodiac signs. So this means that towards the end of the month, we're going to be having a very busy and a very intense and, so to speak, rather explosive agenda. So what does this mean for you and your loved ones? We're going to be reviewing this during the video. So please join me and be prepared for this upcoming eclipse. Thank you very much for being here, and let's go. So it is convenient to have a summary of the main events of the month of December. We'll be reviewing them one by one so that you can have an idea of the significant events during the month. And then towards the end of the video, we're going to be speaking about the eclipse, how to prepare for it, and how to be ready for the massive changes that are coming to our planet as we approach a time of singularity. In December of 2019, we start with the movement of Mercury to Scorpio. This happens on the 6th of the month. Mercury is going to be joining the other 6 planets at the time of the eclipse, and so is the moon. So it is going to be a very, very active eclipse. So what to expect with Mercury in Scorpio? Well, this is good because Mercury will give voice to the innermost feelings of the personality. Scorpio is a sign where we feel like we can find inner courage and also inner release of everything that has been stagnant within our unconscious. So it will allow us to bring it out and forward, hopefully with the presence of Mercury there. This can be done in a non-violent way. So on the 10th, we're having the conjunction of Venus and Saturn in Sagittarius. You may be finding the dream quality in human beings to be challenged with the factual reality of making things happen. So it's going to be, the impulse and the idealism of Venus and the, so to speak, romance of Venus versus the coldness and the factuality and the down-to-earth approach of Saturn. Yes. Well, the good news is we're going to have a full moon in Taurus. The moon exalts in Taurus. So there's a general spark of good feeling and a feeling that, despite the challenges, we'll be able to deal with it in a practical way as long as we stick to our values. So this is so important to have the moon in Taurus during such a, well, not complicated month, but such an intense month. So it helps to know that, the fire element somehow is balanced in the emotional world by the presence of the moon in Taurus. And on the 16th, we have Venus moving from Sagittarius to the sign of Capricorn. Venus feels well in Capricorn. So Venus being in Capricorn, again, together with the moon in Taurus, these are earth signs. So they're reminding us that, despite the emotion of the moment and despite the challenges that we may have, we can always look back and we can always put our feet on the ground and go step by step. Then on the 16th itself, the sun will enter Sagittarius. And the sun is weak at that day, but being together conjunct with Jupiter, which is friends with the sun, Jupiter is an expansive planet, it's already in Sagittarius. And then Saturn is already there as well. Ketu, the planet of past life karma and, depth in the unconscious, is also there. And Mercury will be joining them pretty soon, as well as the moon during the day of the eclipse. So it gives for a whole lot of energy in Sagittarius. So the sun moving there is usually very positive, very expansive. This is what gives us the joy of thinking of what we have done during the year. It comes around this time. And it also propels us to start making new plans and new ideals, and it brings up the spark inside of us, or the divine light inside of us. You know, how to understand the sun in Sagittarius, it is very equivalent if you've ever heard the story of Moses. When Moses heard the voice of the Lord in the desert while he was herding his sheep, the story tells that he heard the voice of the Lord call him, and the Lord manifested in a form of a burning bush in front of his eyes that spoke in divine language and told him, reminded him of his mission. So Sun in Sagittarius is a lot like this. It is an awakening of the higher self. It is the voice of the heart, the voice of the divine clearly speaking to us. So it comes once a year, and it reminds us that, you know, it's time for spirit. So, you know, no doubt that during this month, we celebrate, in the Western Hemisphere at least, it's a time to remember, you know, what's important in life, which is a theme of this solar eclipse, really, and of the process that we've been going through for the last 10 to 12 years or so. Even though it's going to be a very intense and explosive month, it seems to me like this is a month of positivity where we are, you know, like things are falling into place, really. Like, you know, I'm natively from Mexico, and we say that we have an expression, it's called me cayó el 20, which means, you know, the coin dropped. And, you know, I got it. So these few days leading to the eclipse are going to be coin dropping days where you're going to be going ding, ding, ding. You know, it's like things are just going to be making sense, you know, through the process. And you're going to be seeing the fruit of the right actions that you've taken. And if you look at the graphic that you have here in front of your eyes, you're going to see how many planets we have here. So when there's an overload of planets in a house, we can say that the house is congested, and some of the planets naturally become combusted. Now remember, Ketu is the planet that is reminding us of all the lessons that we've already learned in a past life. And Saturn is the karmic tax collector. So Saturn is here to, you know, collect the fees that we own, and also to let us know by rule of law what it is that we have to pay. So it's very strict. Saturn is a very strict teacher, but nevertheless a teacher that can teach us the most important lessons of our lives. So, you know, Saturn can get intense and he can be very strict. And Ketu, on the other hand, is giving us an insight into what we are doing unconsciously. So that is why it's called the tail of the dragon. If you can imagine a dragon's a, you know, a fat lizard. And, you know, the head of the lizard, it's not that a lizard thinks a lot or is very smart, you know, it's guided by instinct or obsession. So that's Rahu, the head of the dragon. But the tail of the dragon being Ketu, you know, is everything that the dragon has from the neck down. So, you know, the place where the fire burns, you know, the fire factory. And, you know, dragons are big, fat, and strong, and they're not very conscious of what they're doing. It is more moving on the reptilian brain. That's what a dragon represents in people, you know, the part of the reptilian brain that is just acting on instinct and drive. So being in Sagittarius, it speaks to us about things that we may be believing but not really understanding. So, you know, when there's an eclipse here, especially with Saturn and Ketu there, what you can expect is that, you know, many of the beliefs that we've been having up to this point of our journey may be greatly challenged during this eclipse. Beliefs in anything from the origin of life to we're the only species in the planet, beliefs in the supremacy of human beings, political beliefs, also religious beliefs will be challenged, moral beliefs. So in one way, you know, the fact that we believe in something doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So these things are going to come out to the light during this time. Just try to ask yourself the question, what is important? During this time, what's going to happen is I think that by karmic pattern, the Earth is going to reach a point of singularity. What does, you know, the shift in the economical system? We can have cryptocurrencies and blockchains. Quantum computing is about to go perhaps global. So advancements in medicine, advancements in vaccination, advancements in molecular biology, all of this is happening as we speak, and we think that that's a thing of the future. But actually, if you have noticed these past few months, things have been accelerating, you know, materially, but also, you know, in where we stand spiritually. It's almost like we're awakening. And all of this is due to the presence of all these planets in Sagittarius, which is the sign of Guru, is the sign of the teacher and the higher self and the guidance. Last time an event like this happened, it was September of 9/11. So Rahu and Ketu were in the same exact constellations as the ones in this eclipse. And those are Moola and Ardra. So Ardra, where Rahu is right now, the head of the dragon, the eclipse doesn't happen there. But in Ardra, Ardra is represented by Lord Rudra, and Lord Rudra is the form of Shiva that dances for destruction. And then the eclipse actually happens in the constellation of Moola. So Moola is represented by Niriti, the goddess of destruction. It is the gateway, or it is the transitional, the rite of passage. So this is the rite of passage from our material self to our spiritual self. And by spiritual, what I mean is we find a purposeful connection with the Absolute. We understand why we are here, and we understand how to act according to our highest good and to the highest good of everybody. So in our energetic system, we understand that through our willpower, we can actually affect the universe in a positive way. And this is aligned, of course, to our native purpose in the incarnation. And it can take us to higher stages of being, all the way to renunciation, all the way to liberation from material life and samsara, and all the way to bhakti, or loving relationship with God. So how to understand the dynamic of the axis of Sagittarius and Gemini, which are two sides of the same coin? The best example I can give you is, if you remember the record, The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. In the cover, you will see that there's a prism, and then there's a source of light coming inside of the prism, and it's white light, and then as it goes through the prism, it'll decompose into all the rays and all the colors. So that is represented by Gemini, the need for variety in the intellect. The intellect is always hungry to know more. The intellect is always, searching for enjoyment. The mind is of that, of that caliber, and it puts everything, it translates everything into language. At the moment, the language that connects the entire world, apart from English, is the language that computers speak, so zeros and ones. That's the universal language that we're thinking, that's going to be the universal language, but it's so limited. Because even though you can express any type of knowledge and information through zeros and ones, what about the part that is transcendental to that? So we're trying to understand that the decomposing the light and looking for variety doesn't necessarily mean what is essential. And essential means a philosophical principle first, which is understanding, the love for knowledge, the love for wisdom, to deeply understand what is the characteristic of a human being and what differentiates us from a robot. Well, a robot or an AI, it can process information faster and it has more information. For example, I can go to Google and type, hey Google, what does love mean? It can give me so much information, 10,000 pages, 1,000,000 pages of information on the word love and what it means, But does Google understand that? Has Google experienced that? Can it understand it? And the answer is no. So that is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the sign of spirituality, and it actually is the sign of our higher self. So if you see at the symbol of Sagittarius, we have a centaur. And what is a centaur? Well, a centaur is a horse, half horse, half man. And he is also an archer, so he has an arrow, and an arrow is where to go. So it reminds me a lot of, Elon Musk at the moment with his rocket. Aries, which is extremely selfish and very self-aware, but it is more action-driven, and it is independence-driven, it is significance-driven. Then we go into the second level, which would be Leo. And in Leo, we develop a character based on morals, values, qualities, self-esteem, and we begin to understand what it is to express uniqueness and personality, how to express power, how to command power. And then finally, when we get to Sagittarius, we start understanding it's not just about power, it's about understanding what to do with it and why. Fundamentally, we understand that free will is a gift, that in the end of the day ends up affecting the entire universe because it affects consciousness. So you are consciousness, and you are at every moment affecting consciousness. It comes down to being selfish or not. And on the side of not being selfish, the path to enlightenment is there, because that's actually reality. Reality is we are all part of this universe, and we all have a connection with Supreme Consciousness, with the Lord. And that connection can be harmonic. So in Sagittarius, we're understanding this. Now, Moola, at the root of Moola, what is at the root, at the heart of that centaur? Well, there is purpose, and there is existence. So 3 things the Vedas explain the soul as Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vigraha. So the qualities of the soul, of the individual spark of consciousness, is exists forever. So that is Sat, the principle of eternal existence. There is Chit, which is the capacity to be conscious, or not the capacity, but more the nature of consciousness, of the nature of being able to be conscious, being consciousness in essence. And then Ananda, which is the quality of the soul, is eternal bliss. So at the core, at the heart of that centaur, at the root of everything, there is understanding of the eternity of the soul, of the possibility of being conscious, of a harmonic world. And then there is also the possibility of understanding that we could choose Ananda, or bliss. Sagittarius, or Dhanu, half animal. And that is the instinct and the drive and, the hunger for experience. Because remember, Sagittarius is the 3rd level of fire, so starting in... So when we arrive at a bottleneck, as the one that we're arriving in December 26th of 2019, these questions are very present in everybody, because we've reached a level of expertise where we are definitely going to be starting to take choices that are not on the basis of power, that are more on the basis of ethics and morals, which is we start understanding, power without morals can end up in tyranny. And so therefore we have to start understanding that we have the capacity for compassion, we have the capacity for planning, we have the capacity of choice. When our power is higher than our wisdom, we are fools with thunder in our hands. And so, by having an eclipse in the constellation of Moola, it is reminding us of the humility that we need to remember, of the discipline that we need to remember, and most importantly, of the word Dharma, which is our duty towards this earth, towards humanity, our duties towards Supreme Lord, because we're all part of this universe. Power is needed to advance forward, but where are we going, and what would be good for everybody? Can we get together and decide, once and for all to really save our planet from what we're doing to it? So that is Moola. Now, Moola comes with a storm and destruction, but you shouldn't be alarmed. There's a lot of videos out there right now that are predicting, catastrophic events for this eclipse, but in reality, from my point of view, it's just going to move the world forward in a massive way, because we are all waking up. The fact that we can communicate, through YouTube in a free way, and that wherever you are, you can listen to the wisdom that resides within the heart of other human beings. This is a great thing. So, if the message is meant to come to you, we'll definitely get it. And what we are starting to realize is that, yes, it is a wake-up call, but don't be afraid. So, what does it mean to clean, What does it mean to make a change? Well, I'll leave you with a story. My dear Guru in India, he used to tell me that, before you cook for the deity and you offer, that cooking with love and affection, the first thing that you have to do is you have to wash the pot. So, the first years that I was in India, instead of translating, designing, or, studying more advanced stuff, the first years what I got to do was wash pots and floors and toilets. But it was the pot washing that was my favorite. So, you know, I would sit there in the last shift in the end of the day, and, you know, when all the monks had gone to sleep, and I would do the pots at night. And, you know, it is a very relaxing exercise because it actually cleanses the mind. So, you know, I would do the pots, and then the pots would be ready for cooking the next day. So sometimes, you know, when you cook with a lot of oil, or, you know, you have sticky vegetables, or you cook with milk that burnt a little bit, you know, you have to scrub the pot a little bit harder. And, you know, it takes extra effort. But nevertheless, what dispels the pain of letting go of that darkness is understanding, you know, with a clean pot tomorrow morning, we're going to, you know, cook cleanly. So that's where we're at right now. So wash your pot. Don't be afraid of it. Just, you know, scrub nicely. And understand that if other people as well are getting washed or are in the dishwasher at the moment, you know, the least that you can do is motivate them and encourage them. Look at them in the eyes if you love them and tell them, no matter what happens, I'm your friend, I'm with you. Everything's going to turn out all right. Keep scrubbing. We're going to make it. I'll see you on the other side. So remember that you can motivate people and you can affect people in a beautiful, wonderful way. You know, a few things are important. To know that at every moment we are connected with the Absolute, and that the Absolute is connected with us. That connection that we have to Absolute Consciousness can become a relationship. And that relationship can be wonderful and beautiful. So remember this, Saturn marks the end of material life and the beginning of spiritual life, because we understand what is essential and what is important. So from my side, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. Remember, we're going to go through the funky times, so don't lose your temper. Put your feet on the ground, pray, get together with friends, be positive about it. And I'll see you on the other side. Thank you for accepting my service. It gives me great happiness to be here in YouTube and to be able to communicate with you. I wish you love and light and patience, perseverance, and furthermore, I wish you joy, happiness in whatever it is that you do. I wish you that you will find your purpose. From my side, I would like to say Radhe Radhe. May the goddess of love reign in your heart. And bye-bye. Happy New Year.